Welcome to this very exciting episode of Fans on TV for Beverley District Motor Club. It's a super exciting episode, and we've got some very exciting people to talk to about this subject. It's a hot subject. It's carbon positive motorsport. What does that mean? I guess it's going to be something about offsetting your fuel and usage and travel and everything to do with motorsport. But before we get into that, let's introduce you to everybody that we're going to chat to. We've got some very famous people and a couple of rally drivers as well. We'll start off with the least famous, Matt Edwards. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Matt Edwards, 3 times British Rally champion. I'm a professional driver coach worldwide, and I'm a brand ambassador for Carbon Positive Motorsport.
Okay, speaking of brand ambassadors, Ashleigh?
So I'm AshleighMorris. I compete as a driver and a co-driver. I'm the Scottish Ladies Champion from 2021, and I'm also an ambassador for Carbon Positive Motorsport.
Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul Glass. I'm the founder and director of Carbon Positive Motorsport. So the guy that came up with the idea and solicited Matt and Ashleigh to join us in raising awareness about what we need to do for the sport through the environment.
Okay, I'll cut straight to the chase. The organisers at Beverley and District Motor Club are very proud, in fact boastful almost, that they're the most carbon-friendly motorsport event in the UK at the moment. Tell me, how are they achieving that? What are those guys doing that's leading the way, Paul?
Yeah, so Richard Vincent, the event director from our initial launch, has been extremely supportive of what we're doing. He's, event organisers, they're the ones that have to consult with the local communities and local stakeholders. I think they're the guys that recognise the sport's at risk without public support, and the environment's a hot topic. Nobody can deny climate change. But Richard is from day one, East Riding Stages has worked with us. This is the second year we've worked, and we're now extending how we're working with the event so that every competitor on the event will have a carbon positive level of offsetting. So this means that 125% of their carbon emissions will be offset. More emissions will be offset than is generated by the competitive part of the event. So it's a great way of taking responsibility for the environment, but also it's a great signal for the motorsport in general that we take this responsibility.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, it seems obvious to me. I was slightly poking fun at it, but it's such a serious subject. It could mean the end of motorsport if we don't sort this side of things out. We're under increasing pressure. But the good news is motorsport's at a very exciting point in its life, let's say, because we've got WRC leading the way with battery-supported technology, and right down to sort of club level, Myscough College are competing with the first ever electric car, which is really exciting for the future. Personally, I'm quite excited by that. I love what they're doing in WRC1. Matt, what's your thought on batteries? You're a brand ambassador for the Carbon Positive Motorsport, but first of all, what do you think of electronic power?
Well, it's obviously something that we're coming to terms with both on the road and in motorsport. And one of the benefits, obviously, of the motorsport is that we're probably finding out a lot of the solutions to the problems they're having for road car technology, as has been the case for motorsport. For year on year, it's in the hybrids for the World Championship. They're still not foolproof. They're not 100% reliable, but the teams are working on the solutions that trickle down to road car technology. So it's got a big trickle down feature for motorsport and into our everyday lives. So it's an exciting time, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess the cynics, as far as motorsport are concerned, are saying that it's only battery assisted. It's a very small difference in overall competition terms, but that's not really the point. As soon as I saw a WRC car driving on full battery through a service park and realizing it was quiet, a Monte Carlo rally, and just how brilliant that is to be able to go through. You can see the future going through Wales, where we're not necessarily the most welcome, through a village at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you could maybe do it on electric power. It sounds a really exciting thing for us to boast about, but also genuinely keep the sport going. Ashleigh, have you got any experience of driving anything electric, road car or competition?
I've tried an electric road car before, but not from a competition perspective. As Matt said, it's great that the technology filters down, but technology's quite there yet, and especially not on a grassroots level, which I think is why it's so important that we find ways that we can carbon offset the vehicles we're all using currently, because the WRC technology is great, but it will take a long time for that to filter down to our sort of level.
Yeah, so let's get real. Tell me a bit about carbon offsetting then. What am I doing? Am I paying, like I'm replanting a tree? What is carbon offsetting?
So carbon offsetting, Kev, it's about investing in carbon offsetting projects. We use a particular high quality of projects based in rewilding. And that basically means that we're restoring ancient forests, mainly, or ancient peatlands with native species varieties of trees. And it's not just carbon offsetting. We're also promoting and improving the environmental diversity of animals, for example, and also importantly, keeping the financial benefits in the local communities where these projects exist. We're very pleased that for East Riding Stages Rally, that we're actually using our first ever English carbon offsetting project. It's not quite on the event's doorstep, but it's close, because most of these projects are the quality we use are based in Scotland. So by creating these projects, we're creating sinks that capture carbon over time. And by doing it in the way that we're doing it, we're able to offset a greater level than what we're creating over time. And all these offsets will be achieved that we are working with by 2050, which is when our net zero goals exist. So it's about capturing carbon from the atmosphere. And there's many ways that the sport can reduce emissions in the first place, like electric vehicles is one way. But actually, we need to capture the carbon that already exists in the atmosphere. So what we're doing is really not the only solution, it's part of a number of solutions to make the sport greener.
As a competitor, one of my biggest concerns would be to gain sponsorship and certainly increasing levels to compete in motorsport. So I'm out there professionally pushing for a sponsor. And it seems really good news to me, a good news story that we can say that we're carbon offsetting and spearheading the way as far as being green and friendly to the environment. So that I'll ask a question to everybody, really. I can see the benefits to going to a sponsor and saying, we've got this great new initiative. If you come on board with me, you can sponsor, but you also open up the public awareness as a minimum, and obviously offset the carbon of the car. And I dare say even be positive to the point where not only are we offsetting the competition car, but you can use some of your sponsorship to be proactive in carbon offsetting. So with that in mind, first question to you, Paul, is how much does it cost? How much do I have to pay to join your program?
You can, for example, offset your fuel consumption by the litre online using our platform, and that starts at 22 pence. Now, there's cheaper carbon offsetting schemes available, but they're overseas and not using the quality we use. However, for events, we have a special package, and we provide not just the offsetting, but a service to the events, both in publicity, but also it's very important that we communicate carbon offsetting in the right way that meets a lot of legal standards. So we've invested a few years before we launched in making sure that we're giving the event something that is you can publicize it, that is value for sponsors. So that's the kind of price range of it. It's very affordable. For these riding stages, it's around about 2% of the entry fee. That's the cost of it. That's a small percentage to protect the sport in the future.
I'll ask Matt now. Have you found it beneficial with your sponsors? I mean, it's a nice to have. I guess it didn't cost a great deal of money. Has it been useful to you?
Yeah, it definitely has. In terms of where I'm at in trying to sustain the level I'm at, it's not really yielding a huge amount of outright sponsorship on its own. But what it does do is allows you to go to the sponsors that you've been working with currently, or new sponsors, and say, look, you know, it's one less thing they can throw back at you to say, no, we can't do it. So from that point of view, it's very beneficial, and it gives a whole range of advantages to them as a sponsor and you as somebody finding sponsorship, because it is a hot topic, as you said at the start. And if a company that maybe currently isn't offsetting any carbon in any way, shape or form, it gives them a platform to do so. Obviously, that gives them a strong link to somebody in a sport that, you know, as we've said at the start, probably doesn't look that green. And
I'm almost ashamed to say that this is almost a new language to me, which is terrible, in the sense that I don't know enough about the subject to talk articulately about it and confidently with sponsors. I really need to learn about that, because a lot of what I've been doing for 20 years in the professional side of motorsport is becoming a brand ambassador for my sponsors and realizing that that's what the relationship is, not just driving or driving a car fast and thinking that's what it's all about, because it clearly isn't. You do become an ambassador, and not only to protect your own reputation, but certainly to be seen to be leading the way. I think it's a great opportunity. It's something I'm going to spend a lot more time to learn about.
I just add something as well? I actually had a point blank refusal for sponsorship on the grounds that it was perceived as being, well, their company had to be carbon zero. And it was actually an existing sponsor that didn't realize all this was going on. And I wasn't involved with carbon positive motorsport at the time, but had I been more involved then, I could still be rallying at the level I am now, or I was. And to be able to turn around not that long after and say, this is what you could have won, was actually quite nice a little bit later on. But, you know, it missed the boat slightly with it. But it does show the importance that the people we are approaching, you know, it's the level of importance that we are approaching people at, that they need that sort of comfort, that it's an image that they can, you know, publicize, that they're supporting it, rather than having to do it on the quiet and disassociate from it, just because, although from a marketing point of view, it's good for the product maybe that they're trying to sell, but it's not a carbon neutral or a environmentally friendly method, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And do you mind me sharing that story? Is that okay?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Lovely. Ashleigh, from your point of view, you're a younger competitor. You're relatively new to the sport compared to us dinosaurs, old fossil. Saying we're talking about carbon, talking about myself. So for somebody it's more of a natural fit for you. Tell us a bit about your enthusiasm, and I imagine you'd be a great ambassador for this.
Well, it felt like a really natural fit to me when Paul first got in touch with me when they'd not long started the business. So I am really concerned about the environment, as I think we all are nowadays. And it always did concern me, the impact that my rallying was having on the environment. So to be able to offset that and not just be carbon neutral, but carbon positive and giving something back is really important to me. And I think also to be a brand ambassador and be able to share the story of carbon positive, it's been really, really interesting. I spoke to a lot of people on behalf of Carbon Positive at Autosport International this year, and there was really a lot of interest. So I think a lot of people within the industry really are waking up now and realizing that we need to make these changes for the future of the sport.
Paul, how do you choose a brand ambassador?
Well, honestly, Ashleigh's car was the perfect colour scheme, but I was very aware of Ashleigh's presence in social media. I mean, it's really quite interesting. We're here for the good of the sport. So when Ashleigh describes us as a business, we're a purpose-led business. This is not our day jobs. This is not what puts a roof over our heads. I recognised Ashleigh quite early on, before we even started the business, that she had a social media presence and a kind of modern approach. I think it's really important, if you look at our social media figures, that 3 times greater license holders that are women in the sport are following us on social media. So I do think diversity is actually, and the youthful sort of generation coming through, are our biggest supporters. When it came to Matt, it goes back to Matt's story. I think we just got in touch with Matt too late, but I recognise Matt as being pretty much the most professional rally guy in the country, and we wanted to associate with that. Matt's also talked before working with us about how important sustainability is for the image of the sport, how it can attract sponsorship. So Matt, for me, was always the first person to call, and very grateful that Matt and Ashleigh both readily said yes, without any financial inducements. This was for the good of the sport from everyone that's been involved. And without Matt and Ashleigh, we wouldn't have got the traction to build up the awareness. We don't pay for advertising anywhere. We ask ambassadors to put stickers on their cars, and we will offset them, and that's the reward. So everyone that's been involved has done this for the good of the sport. I can honestly say that.
I mean, there's no question that from now on my own personal motorsport, I will be attaching myself to this, because I can see so many advantages, let alone that it is actually a nice good thing to do in life. So yeah, I mean, why we even left it to organisers to do it, when realistically as individuals we should be taking the responsibility, but also the benefits that come from it. I commercially see that this is an advantage to all of us. So this is good. It's a good thing. It doesn't cost much money, so we should be all involved in it. Just to wrap this up, I can't go without asking a little bit about competition. Matt, what you driving at the moment? I don't know if you're aware, but I've got an R5 car, and you've been driving a whole wide range of R5 cars. So I want to know from you, as an R5 car owner and driver, not only how I should drive it properly, but what's the best R2 car out there at the moment? R5 stroke R2.
You wouldn't believe how many times I get asked this question.
I will, because most of them tell me what you've said.
Unfortunately, at the minute, it's not the one you drive, so you've got that as an excuse in your back pocket.
Oh, good. Nice one.
It is hard to say. I mean, for me, the honest answer is you could get in any one of them and there'd be a feature or some comfort or some element of its handling performance that you just click with, and that can be the difference between going faster in one or the other. And ultimately, the Polo's bit was an amazing car for me. That's probably all round the easiest to drive, I would say, but that doesn't necessarily make it the fastest everywhere. The Citroen was brilliant in Donegal last year. There's now 13 of them in Ireland, when there was, I think, 2 when we did Donegal. And then in just over 10 days' time, I'm in a Fiesta Rally 2 back over in Ireland. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that car's developed in the 2 years since I last drove one of them. So,
is there a difference in an R? I got to stop you there. Is there a big difference between an R2 and an R5 car?
Rally 2 is the new generation of R5, effectively. So R2 is what you and I would know as the 1600 normally aspirated car, like Ashley has.
Yeah, sorry, I did mean Rally 2.
Rally 2, yeah. Rally 2 is just the modern version of an R5 car. It's the same set of regulations, basically. So there's not a massive amount of difference. It's just what the new ones that are brought out are, and it's just like going from WRC to Rally 1. And
have you tested this Rally 2, the Fiesta?
I did a lot of the original development back in end of 1920. Did a test in Spain and 3 days in Ireland in it, and then we won the Cambrian in one on gravel. Start of 2020, then it was COVID and the whole season got canned just as we'd done a test for West Cork. So this will be the first time that I've actually driven one on tarmac in competition. So,
and we haven't mentioned that. What rally are you actually doing this year?
I'm only doing the Midland Rally next week in Ireland at the minute. I'm still trying to get a programme together to do a bit more. Still as keen as I ever was. Just a few sort of commercial decisions didn't quite go my way with gaining the sponsorship to carry on at the level where I was at. So that's not to say we've given up by any means, but it's as we all know, it's getting more difficult to find the sponsorship, and I'm completely reliant on that to go rallying. So it's a full-time job to generate that amount of money to go rallying, as a lot of people know. But I've got a very busy full-time job doing the tuition, so it's hard to balance the two and find a happy medium. And it's an ongoing challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, and sustainability, Matt, you got great history. Don't give up on it, whatever you do, but also great history, and that goes a long way. That's with you for a long time. When I was competing, I underestimated that, and it's a big thing to just have that history and credibility to take with you for the next few years. So I'm absolutely sure you're going to bounce back. Just keep going at it. You'll be fine.
I'll keep trying.
Don't worry. Ashley, we're coming to the end of our video. What have you got planned?
So unfortunately, I had an accident in my car. I've got a Fiesta R200, which is based on the Fiesta R2. I had an accident at the Galloway Hills, so it's still getting fixed at the moment. So this weekend I'll be out in a hired R2, which I'm hiring from EDSL. So it'll be my first event in a left-hand drive car. So that will be different for me, but a good experience and a good learning curve. And I'm actually going abroad to do my first event abroad in France at the end of March. So it'll be good practice for me to get used to left-hand drive before that. And then I'm hoping to have Jig, which is my car, back March, April time. And then I'll pick up the rest of the season. So Jim Clark, Argyle, and then some gravel events in Jig after that.
busy schedule. Matt, do you have a name for any of your rally cars? Seeing that Ashley's got Jake.
I can't say I do,
No,
I'm afraid.
it must be a girl thing, that I'm fairly sure. Well, that sounds really exciting. We'll keep an eye out for what you're up to. Ashley, Matt, best of luck. Keep going. You're clearly going to come back and win at least another title. I'm convinced of it. Paul, it's fantastic to have met you, given us this opportunity to chat. I'm one of your big fans now, so we'll keep pushing forward with this. And I think we've all got a slightly brighter future and a good way to open doors for sponsorship. So this is a good conversation. Anybody listening to it, so let's take it seriously, and we'll all become ambassadors for carbon positive motorsport. So thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.